Hi, we're back to Najdorf, and this time we're going to see bishop e2 line with the main lines. So, castle, castle, bishop e3. Here white has another option, which is very interesting. Rook e1 plans to play either bishop f1, either bishop f3. Let's start with bishop e6, bishop f1. Generally here, white wants to go knight d5, a4, a5, grab the initiative on the queen side, and control and stand on the d5. Knight bd7. Now it's an important moment for white because it's the last chance to go on d5. If, for instance, white starts with a4, rook c8, and after knight d5, bishop d5, e d5, knight b6, we can see that white cannot protect the d5 pawn comfortably. So let's get back to knight d5, knight d5, e d5, bishop f5. The pawn structure changed. Black opts to play on the king side, white opts to play on the queen side and use their pawn majority. a4, rook c8, c3, bishop g6. Black follows their plan with f5, e4, f4, knight f6 or bishop f6. a5, f5, rook a4. White wants to play rook b4, puts pressure on the b7, knight f6, rook b4, queen d7, protecting the b7 pawn, f3, bishop f7. We can see that d5 pawn is not so strong, so white has to protect with c4, knight h5, black starts their play on the king side, bishop e3, bishop h4. A very good provocating move. g3, f4, g takes h4, ef, rook e3, knight f4. Black was very comfortable in Galler-Lutz. Let's go back to rook e1, bishop e6, bishop f3. We develop our queen, queen c7, a4, and rook c8. To this move we have to pay attention, because what white wants is to get the knight through d2 to f1 and e3 to control the light squares, the d5 and f5. For example, if black started with knight bd7, then after knight d2, white goes for their plan. But when they start with rook c8, if knight d2 now, then knight c6, and the knight gets on d4. So white plays bishop e3. Now, as they occupy to the e3 square, knight comes to d7, a5, h6, a very useful and waiting move, h3, bishop f8. Black plans to play rook b8 and b5, queen d2, rook b8, rook ec1, protecting the c2 pawn, b5, a b5, knight b6, knight a5, knight d7. The knight comes on c5, black has pressure on b2, and I think it's an excellent play. This is all about rook e1. Now we can get back to bishop e3, bishop e6, queen d2. This goes for a little bit slow play. Knight bd7, a4, prevents b5. Rook c8, black wants to come to c4 through knight b6. And the main idea is that they want to take with the rook after exchange. So white doesn't allow it. They play a5, knight c5, knight c5, dc5. Now we can see that the pawn structure changed the game. So after queen d8, well, there are other moves like rook fd1 or queen e1, but they are less dangerous, so you can look it in the files. Queen d8, rook d8, f3 protects the e4 pawn and frees the knight on c3, c4, king f2, king f8. We know that kings are important in the endgames. Knight a4, white wants to get on b6 square, but of course black doesn't want to allow it. So knight d7, rook d1, rook c6, knight c3. White doesn't have a clear plan. We can see that a5 pawn is a bit weak on the square, so after bishop b4, rook has to be on a file and it has to keep the eye on a5 pawn. Knight f6, black controls the d5, rook d8, bishop d8, rook a4. Now somehow white wants to go rook b4 and put pressure on b7, so black has a very good defensive move. Knight e8, knight d5, knight d6. So the knight comes on d6, protects the b7 pawn and c4 pawn as well. Bishop d2, king e8, bishop b4, knight b5, bishop d2, knight d6. Was equal in Leka Topalov game. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.